Today we're looking at this tier list and all the deck lists linked to the tier list from pokukameshi.com, a Japanese website. And so their tier list is going to be ranked by both how strong the deck is and also the usage rates of the deck. So keep that in mind that popularity also is a factor here. One of the interesting things is we know that Lost Zone Giratina hasn't really been performing in Western events, and it's also been deemed to be not a good Lost Zone deck, right? Not a lot of people are playing it because they don't think it's good, but over in Japan and the other Asian countries, it's been being played a lot. And they do have Jet Energy over there already, which we'll have with Paldea Evolved. And Iono and Super Rod are also cards that help the deck out. So those are some factors to why the deck is being played more over there. So their current strongest deck here on the tier list is Gardevoir EX. This is the first place deck from Champions League Niigata, which was a 3,200 player event. I think I've done videos on this tournament's results already, but I've been testing with this deck list and also the next Gardevoir deck list that we'll look at for NAIC's format. The 4 Iono and the Super Rod, like, these are just such impactful cards to the deck. Iono and also Reversal Energy. Like, Iono and Reversal Energy make Gardevoir feel like a completely different deck. It really needed these cards to reach its full power, I think. So right now, this is my go-to straight Guardy deck list. And then this is Reversal Guardy, which this is the other Gardevoir-based deck list I have built that I've been testing. And this one is definitely, it takes some getting used to, but also sometimes the starts are just pretty horrendous because there's a lot of cards that just straight up don't help you in the first couple turns of the game. Like Luxray, Mewtwo V Union pieces, the extra evolutions, the Gallades, the extra Super Rod, and then of course the reversal energies aren't of help early on. But the reversal energies can actually start being good as early as turn two. Like in testing, a lot of times, if my Ralts gets knocked out, I have to attach a reversal energy to use Mirage Step. Like if that just happens to be the energy that's in my hand, we have to suck it up and use it for Mirage Step because we need to Mirage Step. So the Mirage Step Curlia is a big part of this deck as well. First, Lost Zone Giratina. This is also a deck that really enjoys the new set because Iono is good for it, Super Rod is good for it, and of course Jet Energy is very helpful as well for getting more cards into the Lost Zone, easier comfy, also easier to get Giratina into the active when you need to. Jet Energy really helps Lost Zone decks. It makes for a lot of cool plays and for faster Lost Zone acceleration because it can almost be like two switch cards. When you bring a comfy into the active, then hard retreat it into another comfy. And you'll also note that because they're playing 3 Jet Energy, their energy count's very high here. They're also playing less switching cards, which I'm not sure I agree with, but they're also playing more supporters than like your typical Lost Zone deck. And this was a top 16 deck list with in a 3,200 person event, so I'd like to think that this deck list should have some validity to it. Next, we have Arceus Giratina. This won a local level event, a 52-person local level event. I've been seeing across the board that the Japanese lists are trying out Squawkabilly EX in Arceus Giratina. Squawkabilly, if you don't know, if it's your first turn, you can discard your hand, draw 6. And then Spiritomb as well, which shuts off all basic V Pokemon abilities. So essentially, it shuts off Genesect. Also shuts off Lumineon V, but that's less important. So it's a good Mew VMAX. And you'll see Lost City being splashed around in some deck lists as well. Lost City is really good against Gardevoir and against Lost Zone decks. Because like Gardevoir, especially like imagine the Mirage Step variant of Gardevoir. If you go and knock out the Mirage Step Curlia that has a Ralts under it with Lost City on turn 2, on one Ralts, one Curlia. And then if you knock out another evolution line, they could potentially be down 2 Ralts, 2 Curlia, and a Gardevoir or Gallade at that point. So the Lost City knocking out the Gardevoir pieces is bigger than you might think because they really rely on super rotting those back. And that's been reflected in my testing so far of this format. And also Lost Citying one-off Lost Zone attackers like Radiant Greninja or Zamazenta, things like that. And then there's also the 1/1 Flying Pikachu variant of Arctina. Not too different, but the Flying Pikachu VMAX is going to help against Lugia. And Lugia can actually be, so if you're playing Arctina and you're struggling against Lugia, the Flying Pikachu is one of the best options to try for that matchup. Then we have two versions of Lugia. So the colorless Lugia here, they're playing 3-4 Lugia line. I have seen this from Japanese lists because they don't want to start the Lugia V, and the Lugia V star is more important to draw into. But yeah, so the colorless Lugia uses Snorlax as one of its main attackers. Now, this list doesn't include Weirdeer V. It also doesn't include Medicham Yoga Loop. And those are two cards that I've seen included in these colorless Lugia lists a lot, just not in this one, obviously. But they do have the Luxray plus Reversal Energy, which isn't in every list. And then, of course, Single Strike Lugia. They're not playing any way around Duraludon in this. They're not playing the Single Strike Urshifu VMAX. It seems like the Japanese Lugia lists, if I'm not mistaken, it appears that they just ignore that Duraludon VMAX exists. Then we have Lost Zone Sablezard. The only new card really for Lost Zone Sablezard here is that Super Rod. Then we have Lost Zone Single Prizers. This is typically a deck list that I would have a Kyogre in. I'm testing out something similar to this, all single prizers, but I definitely have Kyogre in there. And then, oh, and then here we go. Here's one just like that, but with Kyogre. So there you go, another Lost Zone box variant. They don't show a Turbo Lost Zone here, which is interesting. Turbo Lost Zone got third at the Champions League Niigata. Turbo Lost Zone's still my favorite variant of Lost Zone. Then we have Mew VMAX with some Fusion Strike stuff like we've seen start to happen in the West already. And this also includes Iono. And then we've got top four from the Taiwan Championships, Baxcalibur, Chi and Pal deck. There was also one in top 8 that was a little different. They were both playing two Lost Cities, which I think is 100% correct. You need to be playing at least two Lost Cities in this deck, I think, because you want to be Lost Zoning the Gardevoir pieces, but you also want to Lost Zone Manaphy against Gardevoir and against the Lost Zone decks so that you can then use Radiant Greninja. And also the top 8 deck from this tournament ran the Kyogre from Crown Zenith, so that does 180 to a benched Pokemon, so you might want to be getting rid of Manaphy's for that reason as well. Next is Goodra V-Star, and this, I'm not sure I like including the Sableye and also the Kyogre in Goodra V-Star. It just feels like there's too much going on. This won a 64-person event in Tokyo, so it has some validity for that reason. Like, obviously, it's a deck that works, but not the way I'm currently playing Hisuian Goodra V-Star in my NAIC testing. Currently have Jet Energies in my list, and I do not have Psychic Energies, and I do not have Kyogre. So over in Japan, it looks like they are identifying that this is a deck now. Arceus, Duraludon, Umbreon, VMAX. I think this deck is very good. If you don't think it's very good, then you're underrating it. But also, if you think it's the best deck in the format, remember Arceus decks are a pile. And this doesn't have Lost City in it, and that is blasphemy. Then we have Miraidon. Miraidon isn't a deck. Play something else. Urshifu and Teleon has an awful Lugia matchup, and it's a pile. Don't play that. Ting Lu. I'm okay. I just bashed on two decks, and now I'm gonna actually talk about Ting Lu. But I think Ting Lu is really, really interesting. I don't actually know that it's a real deck yet, but I think it's really interesting. And that's all they have for us on this Pokekameshi tier list today. I don't think Ting Lu wasn't even on the tier list. I guess it's tier 5. But yeah, so we'll look at more deck lists like this in the future on this channel. I'll leave a link to Pokemeshi in the comments or something. Thanks for watching.